All right, friends, coming back. I forgot to share part of the day five. My apologies. So this is going to be pretty short. So Dean Graziosi, he was actually invited to share a little bit on day five, and uh, so what did Dean talk about? He talked about closing the gap. Okay, and he did a little bit of training. Essentially, what is closing the gap? Where did I draw this? I can't find it. Okay. Essentially, closing the gap from where you are now to where you want to be. Okay? And so he talked about the first step you need to do and where all change starts is by being honest with yourself. Okay? So you got to be honest. If you're not honest with yourself, you're never going to get to where you want to be. Because the first step is, again, knowing where you're at right now. And then also knowing where you want to go. Okay? And between those two places, there's a gap. Okay, and so how do you close that gap? That's what his talk is about. Okay, and he talked about there's a lot of people who talks about I'm so blessed, and I really don't have to do much more. I feel pretty good, and even though that may be true, he says that just because you're blessed doesn't mean that you shouldn't be living to your full potential. And really, that's my biggest fear, to be honest with you, is living a life that I'm not coming close to my full potential. That would be just sad for me, because I'm so grateful for all the gifts I've been given, and talents and resources and all that, and not to be able to use them for what I'm supposed to be here for. That would be a shame. And so that's just my belief. So it doesn't have to be yours, but I definitely encourage you to do the best that you can, right? Try to always get closer and closer to your potential. Will that mean that you might fail? Yes. I can probably guarantee you will fail many times along the way. But that's how you get closer to your potential, because each failure will build upon itself to actually make you stronger, better, and equip you with the right skills. Okay? And then Dean asked the question, are you disturbed with your inaction? And if not, he thinks you should be. And so going back to what you want, where you're at and where you want to be, he talked about how most people go through life avoiding what they don't want. A lot of times when you ask people, hey, what don't you want, right? They can give you a huge list. I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be poor. I don't be whatever, right? And a lot of people, they know what they don't want, and that's kind of how they live their life, by avoiding what they don't want. But then when we're asked, what do you want in your life? Most people are like, oh, haven't really thought about that in depth. But the key, my friends, is you need to go deeper. You need to really answer that question. What do you want in your life? And if you can't answer that question, you're probably going to be feeling like you're drifting around in life, as if you're in the middle of the ocean, just drifting. I don't see land. Looking for land, but you're drifting in the middle of the ocean. So answer that question, my friends. Okay? And so again, you need to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. I forget what example you used, but the one that I like to use is that an example is that when you're driving on the road, right? You need to focus on your lane and not the lane on the other side of the yellow paint. Because if you focus on that, they've shown that you automatically steer your car in that direction. So obviously you don't want to be coming into oncoming traffic. So you gotta focus on your lane, okay? Because what you focus on grows, okay? And so what is the close the gap exercise to help you? Okay, the first thing you need to answer again is your why, right? What do you want? And then he talked about the 7 why exercise, okay? And that's your anchor, okay? So what's the 7 why exercise? Very simple. What do you want? Well, I want this. Well, why? Well, because of this. Well, why? Well, because of this, right? And just keep asking until you're seven whys deep. And by that time, hopefully you'll get really close to your why, to your actual why, and your reason for wanting to actually create some changes. And the next thing is, the next question is, how do you get to where you are to where you want to go, right? And then now the bridge to that is how, is the how, okay? So the how is the bridge from getting where you are to where you want to be. And then he talked about the exercise. Okay, yes, you have to find a strategy, but he said replace the word how with who. Okay, and the who is really the roadmap to get where you want to go quicker. In other words, find a mentor, find somebody who's where you want to be, and then emulate them basically. Or even better, ask them to coach you. And what I've found in my experience, anyways, people who are successful in life, they're more than happy to actually help you if you're truly sincere and you're willing to actually step up and commit to something. For most people, they never commit to anything, and they don't have a deep enough why to actually be committed to anything. And so that's why for most people, you're never going to earn that relationship. But if you're serious and you have something that's so important to you, a change you want to make in your life, it doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it's important to you. I find many successful people are more than willing to give you some of their time. And if you really step up each time, you can actually potentially develop a long-term relationship. Okay? Well, you know what? This is a short live, so I'm going to quickly share with you a quick story of how I met one of my mentors, right? So in my early 20s, I was going through a traumatic experience. I was living with my parents for 4 years, and they were going through marital issues, okay? And essentially, they were going through a lot of issues. Every day, I was being pulled this way, pulled that way. My mom would slander my dad. My dad would eventually defend himself and slander my mom. And so every day, they'd be pulling me, trying to get me to take their side. But I can't do that. They're my parents, right? 4 years living in that environment broke me down. I was a shell of a person. I didn't know what to do. My friends, I didn't know this at the time, were aware of the situation. I didn't know. I didn't tell them. But they didn't know how to help me. They tried to be there as friends, but they were young and they didn't know anything. And so I reached out to my mentor, and I asked him, hey, I know you mentor people in business, but I know you mentor people in life as well. I'm going through something. Can you help me? And he says, well, there's a leadership conference in Vegas. If you meet me there, I'll talk to you. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking to myself, why don't we just meet here? We both live in Vancouver or the area. But anyways, I didn't care. I needed help. So I was like, okay, great. How do I get in contact with you? He gave me his number. When you there? What days? Okay, cool. Boom. Flew off to Vegas. This was like a month or so later, or maybe a few weeks, I forget. And I found him, I contacted him, and I met him where he was at. Say, hey, so this is my situation, and will you mentor me? Will you help me? And he's like, well, if you do these 3 things, I will take you under my wing and mentor you. I'm like, okay. I jumped at the chance. I'm like, yes, I will. And she said, no. Do them, and then come back to me. I was thinking to myself, what? I'm like, dude, I said I'd do them. Okay, whatever. In less than 2 weeks, I finished what he asked me to do, and then we started our relationship. And it's been amazing. He's helped me through so many issues in life. All my challenges. He's been there, ups, downs. There's this freaking, he's like a huge big brother that I can always turn to. And we built this solid relationship over time. But I proved to him that I was serious. Because there were supposed to be 16 people from Vancouver that was supposed to fly down to Vegas and join him at that leadership conference. Do you know how many people flew down to meet him? Including me? 1. I'm like, what? 1 person came, just me? I'm like, how? I'm like, do they not know who you are? Do they not know that you can help them change their life? And he's like, yeah. They know I can help them, but they're not committed. And so he doesn't pour into them, or he doesn't build that relationship like he did with me over time. It's because I showed him that I was here. So like, okay, I said I'd show up in Vegas. In Vegas! And then, he said to do this, and I did it, right? And so that's something I would challenge you, my friends. What's important enough to you? What's your why that you would do whatever it takes to actually make it happen? When you find out why, the right people and opportunities, I believe, will show up in your life. Just make sure you don't shut that door. Because I find so many people, they might pray for something, a solution, and it's deep in their hearts, it's in their soul, they really want to make changes. And then certain opportunities or people come to life, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm looking for. And then they allow their primitive brain, scarcity, fear, scared, right? No risk. And then they go back to their old habits. And they give up that opportunity to change their life, to actually live their purpose. It's not that they still can't. If they choose differently down the road, then they can. But I find most people, they allow their doubts, not just about themselves, but about opportunities, about other people. They allow the world to influence them in a negative way. And my hope for you, my friends, is don't allow all the clutter, all the noise influence you in a negative way. Surround yourself with positive people. Get yourself from peak state. Operate from love. Instill hope, not just in yourself, but in those around you. Because that's what the world needs, my friends. That's what the world needs. And so, again, I just want to say I love you. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.